Hi friends, Mayor Moreno here with your recap from the September 28th, 2021 City Council meeting for the City of Atascadero. The consent calendar, which you might know are typically routine items on there. We had one item of note, and that is that we authorized the city manager to move forward with executing a contract to replace one of our wildland fire engines, and that cost is about just under $450,000. Thanks to D20, we're able to do these kinds of things. So really glad to get that underway because it will take some time to have that engine built. Next item of note is the council looked at the new state law with regards to accessory dwelling units. You might hear these called secondary units. Sometimes people refer to them as granny units, but it's basically another detached unit on a property. And the state is trying to increase the supply of housing. And, unfortunately, a state can really only come with a one-size-fits-all solution. And so then the jurisdictions are we all scrambled to see, okay, how does this affect us and what do we need to do to really make this fit, and where we have any discretion, how do we use that discretion? So right now what the state is saying is any property can put a secondary unit on it, except of course when it comes to health and safety. Like there are still standards. So you look at high fire hazard areas. And so what we said is certainly we want to take the expertise of our fire chief, of the fire experts. And if there are areas where we say adding extra units would exacerbate the risk involved for all residents, then we need to not allow secondary units or ADUs in those areas. Same with septic. In Atascadero, if you have 1 acre or more and you can meet our local area management plan, you can put a secondary unit on if you're on a septic system. Under 1 acre, we don't allow that, and it really is best management practices. How do you look at protecting the groundwater basin, the nitrogen levels in the soil, all of that. And so what we said as a council, the feedback was we want to stick with that 1 acre minimum. Now, if it's possible to carve out some exceptions where health and safety wouldn't be concerned, and we can easily do that and make it clear in the code for people, that's really important, I think, then go ahead and do that. But right now, we want to stick with that 1 acre minimum. Let me look at my notes here. The state is also allowing what they call junior ADUs, and that is 500 square feet or less, and it has to be encapsulated within the primary residence. So think of garage conversion, something like that. So most properties, and there are some exceptions. You have to go through the code and really piece that out, but we're going to try to make it as clear as possible. But a good number of properties could put both a junior ADU and an ADU on their property. Now, if you're putting an ADU on your property and it's new, you cannot use it for vacation rental. The state's pretty clear. They want housing. So it's got to be long-term rentals. Or if you were to put one on your property, you could move into the ADU and then you could actually apply to do a vacation rental for your main home. So kind of funny the way that works. If you already have an ADU that you use as a long-term rental and want to convert to a short-term rental, then there's a particular issue with that as well. We would say, okay, well, you could do that, but if the state comes back and requires that we allow another ADU on your property specifically for long-term housing, then we might say, nope, you need to convert that one back. So I know this sounds kind of convoluted, and it does feel that way. We've delved into pages and pages of code and a lot of discussion on this. So what else did we do here? Setbacks. The setbacks have changed. So basically the state has said 4-foot setbacks in the back and on the side. And unfortunately there's nothing we can say about that. So if there are neighbor impacts, neighboring properties, I'm hoping that neighbors work well with each other, but there's nothing that the city can do with regards to that. Now, our front setbacks still apply, the 25-foot setback from the front of a property. What else here? Fire, septic, short-term rentals. Those were really the keys. But basically the state is changing a lot of things to do what they can to facilitate greater development of housing. And I get the need for that. And then here we are as policymakers trying to balance neighborhood impacts, the intent of, for example, if you're in an area where you have CC&Rs, right? Covenants, commitment and restrictions, I think, if I remember correctly what that stands for, that you're in a development where you have an HOA and you have these agreements with you and all your, let's say, 50 other homes or 200 other homes, and this is the way we agree to live and to keep our properties, and we're not going to have ADUs. And if that is in your CC&Rs, that's been thrown out by the state. So even though you have that legal agreement, it is now null and void. And so it makes it a little bit challenging when you have certain things in place, you have a certain expectation, and basically that's being overwritten. So we will see how this all comes together. There's other legislation coming down from the state as well, SB 9 that passed recently. And so a lot of impacts that we as a city are going to be wrestling with, as well as the rest of the state, for a long time to come. And let's see, the final thing we did is we approved our labor agreements and salary schedules for 3 years. This is a lot of work. Negotiations, going through all of that. One of the things that really came out of our last 2 years, we did our Talk on the Block series in 2019, 2021. And then after Measure D20 passed, we had a lot of public outreach, 10 public meetings just leading up to strategic planning. And what we really heard loud and clear from the public is we're concerned about employee retention. Our staff, like employees, are some of the great, if we talk about like what are the best things about the city, it's really the staff who makes those things happen. And you as the residents really saw that we need to make sure we retain and we pay people well. So what we found in our salary analysis is that we were basically the bottom when it came to the county. And you might say, great, we're being fiscally responsible. On the other end, it's hard to retain and attract qualified people, and there are a lot of inefficiencies, and it ends up costing a lot of money in the long run when you've got to train and get people up to speed who maybe aren't as qualified as you want for a certain position. Or anytime you have turnover, it costs, exponentially, it costs so much more to be able to recruit and train new folks. And so we wanted to look at how do we pay our people. We're never going to be at the highest, but we want to get closer to that average. And so we looked at that and came up with, I think some really solid agreements. You can go through and look at what all the details are, but basically for all employees besides police are kind of in a category of their own. For all the employees, we're doing cost of living increase of 5%, 4%, and 3.5% over the next 3 fiscal years. And then depending on how far out they were from the average, we're doing some salary adjustments. And then there's a couple of tiny other things with regards to deferred comp, and just some other minor things with the individual bargaining units. For police, because we've had a harder time keeping and attracting police officers. It's a challenging, I was going to say industry to want to be in, but it's a challenging job, and it's difficult to attract and retain folks into those positions. And so we have done a couple of things. One, their cost of living adjustment will be 5% a year for all 3 years, so higher than the other bargaining units. And when we looked at the salary adjustments that needed to be made, we made more of a salary adjustment for those. You can look in our staff report. I will link that here along with the pages that you can look at if you want to see the salary schedules and see some of these details. But I think we've done good by our employees. They negotiated in good faith, and in the 8.5 years I've been on council, I have so appreciated our employees that during negotiations, they've always come from the place of knowing that we don't have the money to pay what other agencies do. We still don't, but we can do a little more. So I've been so appreciative of them over the years of understanding where we are and working with that. And we just generally, I'm going to say, have a terrific team. And I'm so proud of the work that we do. I'm proud of the employees that we have, and really grateful for the team And that starts with the city manager to the department heads all the way throughout the organization. Really thrilled to be working with them and with my council. We have a good council. We're all working together really well. And you as a community, I couldn't be, I don't think things could be going any better right now. I know that sounds weird to say. Yes, things could always go better. There's things that come down from the state that are challenging, but you know what? We're taking it all. We're dealing with it. We're taking it in stride. We're working together. We are doing the best that we can. And thank you for being involved in the community. And I want to hear more from you, right? Always reach out. hmoreno@atascadero.org. Of course, here on social media is just fine too. But take good care and talk to you next time. Bye for now.